Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating guest. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, I'm Jessica Noble. I am from Sydney and I'm 37 years old. So when I kind of look back and I tell my story and a little bit about myself, I find I have a very kind of unique journey. So I was born here in Australia, in Newcastle, so grew up there. And then my parents, when I was 6, moved up to the Sunshine Coast. So I am Filipino, Irish, Australian, obviously born here. So growing up as like a multicultural was really, I've felt really good connecting to my roots and that diversity of having that kind of Filipino side. So I would do a lot of the folk dancing and connecting to my roots and community. And then we moved up to the Sunshine Coast, which obviously at the time when I lived there wasn't as diverse as living down in Sydney, but Newcastle. And just throughout school, I've always been that kid that always has followed her own path. So my mom has kept on my report cards. So I remember finding one from when I was 5, and it said, "Jessica in the playground always stands up for other kids." So I feel like that's something that's always been in my life, is standing up and supporting other people. So with that, throughout school, I was always that kid that would do everything. I loved sport. I did everything from basketball, soccer, surf life saving. And then at school, I would always be involved in all the kind of community events. So I was community student council leader and always kind of doing everything, fundraising on the street for different charities. And I've always kind of, been that kid. And then, when I was in university, I always wanted to help people. So I went into communications, did some creative arts and public relations, marketing. And through university, I was lucky to be involved in, being university ambassador for UNICEF, because at school I would do youth parliament and get involved in, a lot of kind of stuff for our kind of, our area, getting involved, representing and speaking up for students' rights. And with UN Women, after I finished uni, I started doing events for them on the side. So my life could have went 2 paths. I nearly went the humanitarian or into the beauty industry. So it was a good experience. I went into the beauty industry. I was lucky throughout my career that I wanted to get my foot in the door. And I remember being when I was a young uni student, going, I'm willing to do anything. So that job really kind of taught me everything. I used to, I was working for a beauty brand and drive all through the countryside and the outback of Australia. So that was, I look back and I was like, wow. So that was really good experience. And then after that, I went overseas and I traveled. So I was lucky to kind of have that gap year and that experience of, I worked on ships. So that was a good experience of being able to, be and experience different cultures, find out a little bit about yourself, visit amazing places that really kind of, really inspired me, and places I always wanted to go to. And then throughout that, I kind of spent a good decade in management and education. So I was in the beauty industry, supporting women, educating. So that was that brought me from Australia, lived in the UK for a bit, even in the US, and then came back to Australia. So I feel like throughout my life, it's really, really these key moments like have really impacted me, and I've gotten over a lot of difficulty, a lot of PTSD, trauma, things that have kind of really impacted me. And I've done a lot of healing. So 6 or 7 years ago, I had that big tower moment of my life where I was, reached the top of my career in the corporate, and I felt like something was missing. And I was in a marriage that, I was just felt like I'd lost myself. And it's funny because people look at me now and they're like, Jess, you're so confident. And I was like 6 or 7 years ago, I was like so self-conscious. Like I wouldn't post on social media. I was like a very different person from who I am now. I'd lost myself. I'd lost my passions, who I was. And I had some, like death in the family, which made me kind of like review, and I'd gone back to Philippines for it. And it was really one of those life-changing moments of, growing up in, community. And I've been lucky to, when I was younger, I went to school for Philippines for a bit, and I was able to do a presentation for my school here in Australia about it. They're so big on community. And I went back there and I remember stressing about work, and they were like, we put family first. And it made me realize that, like what were my priorities and what were the things that I was focused on. So I came back and ended up, big tower moment, left the job, left the husband, and realized I had a lot of healing to do, And so I ended up going overseas for a year and, just visiting different places and, just giving myself that time to heal. And, the things that like I hadn't dealt with, like when I was younger, my dad had passed away, and a lot of emotions I'd kind of repressed. So it was a really amazing journey of rediscovering myself. I was able to live in the US, being able to visit Caribbean islands. And then I went and connected with my ancestry, so my Irish side, which is something I've always wanted to do. And my dad always encouraged me because, on my Irish side, my grandparents had died when I was younger. So I'd always had that connection with my Filipino side through the dancing and my great-grandparents who I'd met and my grandparents. But the Irish side was something that, I was obviously named after my grandma on the Irish side, Jessie. So that was something I really wanted to connect back to. And it was such an amazing kind of journey to connect back to my roots. And I ended up, coming back home to Sydney. And when I came back here from that healing journey, I wanted to, be able to do something, because I know that when you're going through a lot of different things, you can feel alone. And that's when I started, groups like for women. So it was during like the lockdown for them to have safe spaces where they could sit and share their story and feel supported. So that was a really kind of amazing experience to be able to provide them that. And and like being able to do things for women starting their business, because that was always something I was passionate about. But then it got to a point where I got really bad burnout, because as I was doing all these things and I was working as well in a very kind of demanding job. I'd gone back into the beauty industry thinking I could make change, and, I'd done all this work on myself, and it hit me. I got burnout, and I had to just adrenal fatigue, and I had to stop. And I had to kind of remember, because that would have what had happened a few years ago when I had that tower moment. So so it made me kind of connect back. What do I really want to do? What do I want to focus on? And it was like starting my own business. But
Jessie, what an amazing story and journey you've been on. Now, your project, the era of the Cosmic Cowgirls, is fascinating. Can you share what inspired this celestial journey and what the Cosmic Cowgirls represents in today's society?
So I feel like what it represents, this cosmic journey, I feel like it's a journey that we all take, especially as young women, finding our way in the world and finding our path. So in today's society, it's a multifaceted archetype that really represents, that free spirit, authenticity and empowerment. So yeah, for finding your journey and listening to your intuition. So it's kind of based around when women get their moon time and actually having that connection to their body and realizing that nature, connecting to nature and connecting to your cycle and your flow is really your power. So.
And it's interesting that you're really helping women go back to their womanhood and get in touch with those organic processes that go on in our bodies on a monthly basis as well. So you've openly discussed overcoming personal challenges such as burnout, health issues, adrenal fatigue. How have these experiences shaped your approach to resilience and purpose, both in your life and in your work?
All of it is really tied back to our things that happened when we were younger. A lot of it I realize is my perfectionism, and that was obviously from when I was younger, always trying to I was like overachieving, so it was like I was trying to always prove something to my parents and try to get that attention as a child, and that obviously resulted in me having burnout, not kind of overworking. I look back and I'm like, how did I do that? And I feel like everything in life kind of comes when you have these health issues or things come up. It's your body speaking to you that you're not confident of what you're doing. Because I always think back when I have those big moments, it's like, hey Jess, you're not following your truth, you're not following your intuition. That's why I'm really passionate about talking about the moon cycles and having that, because it's that wisdom within us as women that is telling us. And when I've had to step back and, deal with it, it's been, I've been kind of now embracing being like, okay, it's a realignment because I wasn't going in the right direction and it's telling me exactly where I need to be. So I think really sharing openly about it, because it's, a lot of women and a lot of people out there are probably, suffering with this, and, it's okay to, get knocked back down and, have this happen. But, it's that resilience of building yourself back up. And, especially as an entrepreneur or founder, there's times where you've hit rock bottom, and it's how, it's how you build yourself back up that really kind of matters. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is to make a choice not to stay down for too long, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we get knocked back, and getting back up quickly is really what life is about. So, as a passionate advocate for women's voices, how do you use storytelling to empower and celebrate the authentic voices of women? And can you share a story that deeply impacted you or your audience?
Yeah, and I think, it's beautiful what you do here with her story, because, women sharing their stories and learning that holding space for, a lot of women circles, and it's so healing. A lot of us, sometimes we forget we have a voice, like how I shared a couple of years ago when I was going through that hard time. I didn't feel like I had a voice. I didn't feel like I had a story to tell. And when you have a safe space and you have permission to share, you're like, oh, wow, actually, it empowers you and it makes you feel like, wow, okay, everybody. So, and as well as deep listening. So it's like, a lot of women just need that space to be listened to. And I learned so much, and you probably would doing this about women's stories. And a story that really kind of impacted me was I did one. She was my colleague, Ash, and I were both working at L'Oreal as retail, regional training managers. And we were having the exact same career, and the exact same kind of things were happening to us, but her a few years later, we had no idea. So it just kind of showed me, because I didn't realize she had, she's been very open about, she's now sharing stories about sober living, because she, went through a hard time with alcohol with drinking. And I didn't even know. And when I was, doing that and her sharing her story, I was like, wow, you could be spending so much time with someone and working with them, and I was going through my hard time and she didn't even realize too. And I didn't even know. And a few years later, and her and I being able to have that chat, I felt like wow, it's a beautiful reflection that sometimes just reaching out and seeing if someone's okay could change their life. Or
So in your book series and workshops, intuition plays a pivotal role. Can you elaborate on the importance of intuition in personal growth and how one can cultivate it in their daily life?
Yeah, so intuition, definitely my personal growth has saved my life many times. Many times it's when I don't listen to my intuition. when things happen. So yeah, like, you know, intuition. Yeah. I like sometimes it's like it's talking to you and you're like so yeah, so like with you know, connecting back to that and throughout like my life and throughout what I want to, you know, what I wanted to do and like what I've been teaching, I used to hold space for women to kind of work with their intuition. I used to hold these circles, and what I discovered, like, you know, all of us kind of can, you know, tap into that, and it can help us make our own right decisions, because I feel like outside there's so much noise and there's so much, you know, I feel, you know, for young women today, there's social media that's telling us things, there's so much pressure from outside, but we know what is our truth and what is our values. And I think that that's why I'm kind of really passionate about intuition, because it's coming back to, well, what is my true values and alignment that I want to live and serve the world and my purpose. So intuition is coming back to that and finding your own unique gifts.
So, with such a diverse background in communication, education, and entrepreneurship, how do you approach the creative process? And do you have any rituals or practices that help you stay inspired and productive?
Yeah, so the creative process is, you know, it's kind of finding, it's kind of, I feel like finding that space within. And, you know, for me, it's just simple things like going outside and like getting up at sunrise and watching the sunrise, or there's a tree I like to meditate in. So like just being in nature and letting it flow. Like all of us, even having a shower sometimes, you know, not overthinking it, and just kind of allowing ourselves a space to kind of be creative. Because it's interesting, because like a lot of us, we've lost that kind of creativity and we think that we're not creative, but every day in life can be creative. Like, you know, the way we cook when we do cooking, or, you know, how we move. And I've been getting really into somatic movement, so kind of like feeling that into my body, and you know, just my daily practices. Yeah.
Fantastic. It is good to have some rituals that you can stick to every day.
Mm.
So, you specialize in creating safe spaces for women to connect and support each other. What are the key elements of building a strong and supportive community? And how do you foster authenticity within these spaces?
Yeah, I think, you know, like it's just being real. Like what I've realized, like, you know, in these spaces is being like, hey, I'm not okay. I don't have it all together. And when you kind of open up about that, it gives other people permission to be like, hey, you know, I'm going through that as well. Because I feel like throughout my career, you know, I was like in the beauty industry. So it was like putting on this face and this smile. That's what I was mentioning before with Ash, who I worked with. And, you know, we were so good at, even if we were having a crap day, smiling and being like this, and then actually realizing like, hey, like today I'm not so good. So it's like letting women just, you know, be open and, you know, feel, because I feel like we're in a world that sometimes we forget how to feel. So these spaces and kind of nurturing that for women, and it's just kind of listening, understanding, not trying to fix anyone. You know, we always would say that at the start of the circle, like we're not here to fix anyone. We're not here to give anyone advice. You know, we're here just to listen and let them feel. And, you know, I think, you know, we want to kind of, I think our nature as women is we want to give people advice and help them with this, but sometimes some people just need to be heard.
So, your intuitive readings offer insights and guidance through cosmic currents. Can you share an example of how an intuitive reading has led to significant change or insight for someone?
Yeah, so I was lucky to be able to do some intuitive readings. Yeah, like I've obviously done them in circles, and then I've done some corporate as well, and yeah, did some overseas. And I realized that it was just really a safe space when people tap into their intuition to kind of actually have a moment to question how they feel. And
Mhm.
I found that there was a lot of men that, you know, they actually had come forward and, you know, they just needed somebody to listen to them. So, like, obviously getting them to, you know, obviously if I've done a card or getting them to kind of connect to something. So I had an example of, I had this guy and there was like a monkey, and that was this, like, that came up for me. And I said, what is it about the monkey? And I don't know. asked him 2 or 3 times, what is it? Something's telling me. And then he just started crying, and he was like, oh, so he showed me this picture from The Lion King. And when he was going through a hard time, it was this quote that had really got him through. And then he'd actually lifted up his arm and he had the tattoo with the monkey. And like he had totally, he was like, yeah, it was just one of those things where he actually remembered, and that quote remembered him to feel like he was not so much of a good place to remember his power and to remember who he was. So yeah, that's always a powerful example.
So, what is the next chapter of the era of Cosmic Cowgirls? Are there any upcoming projects or expansions that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of focused on the Oracle deck for now. That's something, and then I've got the book coming up. But yeah, I'm just kind of being easy on myself because I've had a hard kind of few months. So just listening to my body and taking my own advice sometimes with that authenticity is like, you don't have to put everything. You're the master of your own timeline, and just kind of like what you said with the creativity, just letting it flow, not pushing it, and yeah, that's it.
You have to listen to your bodies when it gives you those warnings. You really have to take pause.
Yeah.
I like that. It's good that you're listening to your own advice. So, if I was to take you to your younger self, the young woman who set out on this journey of self-discovery, what 3 nuggets of wisdom could you give her? I'm saying this in case there is another young woman who's listening to this show right now who is confused, doesn't know what to do with life. What 3 nuggets of wisdom would you have wanted somebody to tell you about life before you started on your journey?
I always go back to this. It's like it's an Irish proverb I always go back to, and it's like, before you were born, that every challenge, you choose the challenges that come up because you know that you can overcome them. And that's been something when I've been going through a really hard time, is remembering, okay, what is this challenge going to teach me? Not seeing it as, when something comes up really hard, being like, okay, this is it. It's like, what is it teaching me? Everything is a teacher. So remembering that. And yeah, like living your life really authentic. I know I say it a lot, but authenticity is so hard in this world where there's so many things that aren't real anymore. And, coming into this new technology is just like, there's no one else like you. So just keep being you. And I think the next thing is just remember it's your energy, have beautiful energy. On the outside, you could look however you want, but if your energy is not beautiful and you don't cultivate and lead with your heart and have a kind heart, like everything else.
In our increasingly polarized world, how do you see your work contributing to more understanding and empathetic society, especially through the lens of diversity and storytelling?
With that, I think, with this storybook, I, obviously wanted to see more kind of diverse characters as well. So for me, I wanted to, include a character that was Filipino as well. So like my background and being able to see, because I know growing up, I didn't have any books that had any kind of Filipino role models or, diverse role models I could look up to and understand, what you're kind of seeing a little bit more coming up in there. And I think that, having characters that are connected back to nature still, with the cosmic is, they have their own magic superpowers within them when they connect to nature. Yeah, so empower them to use their own magic and intuition, which then they can connect back to nature. Because nature, Mother Nature's here for us, and is to kind of learn that, because we're in a world right now where we're so, we're so, like, a lot of the kids, like at home, just in front of their computers, and they don't get out in nature so much. It's like nature's the biggest teacher. It's all around us. So yeah, go out and explore and hike and play and.
So, drawing from your rich experience across different sectors, what advice would you give to individuals aspiring to make a difference through their creative or entrepreneurial endeavors, especially in these challenging times?
Stay true to your vision. It can be challenging. It's not easy being a creative right now. I've had ups and downs, and there's been times where I've struggled with my confidence and being like, well, do I have a voice to be put out there? And especially having a diverse voice and something a little bit different. I feel like, not being, following the kind of normal traditional path is like, believe in yourself. You have that community around you that can, bounce off ideas and be real with you, and just focus on it. Because there's been times I've wanted to give up many times, going, it's so hard, so challenging doing this. But then I'm like, okay, what am I doing from it? It's when I've taken out the I and I've gone, well, this is what I'm doing to serve the world, and that's when I kind of be like, well, this is my purpose. Let's get back to your purpose.
It's good to stay grounded and connected to your purpose. Otherwise, you can lose sight of as to why you're doing what you're doing in the first place.
Yeah,
that is so true. Let's have a little time experiment, and I'm going to teleport you into the future. If I could teleport you into the future to meet the 80-year-old you, and you're 80 years old, sitting on your rocking chair, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, your dogs, your cats, whoever's with you at that time. If I could take you into the future to have a conversation with this wise woman who's led you to that point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
I would say to her, you've lived a wild and wonderful life. And you stay true to yourself even through it, and grateful that, you found that kind of purpose, and, life hasn't always been linear and it hasn't always been easy. You've gone through a lot of difficult times and things that have tried to break your spirit and soul, but you've found that, that light and the love even, through it all. So, I'm happy and I'm proud of you.
That is fantastic. I do love asking women that question, because a lot of times we don't realize that the wise woman is already in us. She's already guiding us. And that's the intuition you were talking about. You need to trust yourself, trust your instincts, and trust your gut. So you've been a really good example of this last metaphor that I love to share on the show. Thank you so much, Jessie.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is attracting some phenomenal women, young and old, bringing you insights of their lives to uplift, inspire, energize you, and motivate you. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing woman. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Jessie, thanks again for the interview. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.